equipment you see is either solar edge gear or Enphase. Enphase is a microinverter system. So basically, there's DC optimizers and then there's microinverters. So the old style solar PV system was string based. So think of like Christmas lights when you're a kid. When one bulb goes out, the whole string of lights goes out. So there's where a bit of baggage is around solar, is that if one panel went bad or a bit of shading covered one panel, it would drop the system efficiency of the whole system and limit your production. So with the advancement of microinverter technology and DC optimizer technology, it allows panels and systems to operate independently of each other. So each panel is like its own little power plant and they all work collectively as a whole. Mm-hmm. So that's really been the big game changer in the world of residential solar. And that'll be the two most common types of equipment you'll run into are those. And then Canadian solar for panels is a lot of what we use and very common. The next common that we'd see would be LG panels. They're a little bit more efficient than the Canadian solar, but they're also twice as expensive. So, we like to go not with like the value route or like the cheapest equipment, but that's the it's a good mix of product. But LG and Canadian Solar will typically be the two big brands that you'll run into out there if you run into anything existing or if anyone's talking about it. And then there's different options. These two images would be examples of what our software spits out and what some of the modeling looks like. There's other design softwares, but this is just examples from Aurora. So it's what's used to model a system on location. You can model in trees, things like that. So the design software can be pretty sophisticated. So if someone's interested in solar, you could reach out to a bunch of installers and they can prepare stuff for a client. And then, because like we'll run into people that when they're buying a home, they'll do mortgage plus improvements and add solar to it later, or they'll do it through a new build. Mm-hmm. So there's negative history is not representative of the current state. So like I said, there's a lot of baggage around, you install solar, you're poking a bunch of holes in your roof, you're going to have all these leaks. We've got over 100 projects complete with, thousands of holes drilled in people's roofs to anchor down our solar arrays, and we've not had a leak. Again, that goes installer to installer. But the design kits for the installations are really solid. There's great solutions for metal roofs. There's great solutions for asphalt roofs. In terms of roof age, we typically like to only install on something like, if something's in really good shape and it's around 7 years old, we'll install on it. If it's getting above 7 years, we'll probably recommend homeowner do a roof before solar.
Yeah, that only makes sense.
Yeah. It's not a big deal to do it after the fact, but you're doing a lot of rework. Mm-hmm. And where solar covers the most exposed parts of the roof, the array is going to help protect it in a certain degree too, because that south side's not going to get pounded by the sun. Because in a lot of cases on an asphalt roof, any like strong south facing roof face, you'll see that part of the roof go before like the more northerly parts or more shaded parts of the roof. And we have some people too, like the home that we did, our first project back this year, they put a new roof on just where we were doing solar, and then they'll do the north side another time, because there's still some good life left in it. So this way, they'll get into it.
Obviously a metal if a metal roof is already in place, that's best case scenario because they typically
Yeah, yeah,
have 70+ year lifespans.
yeah, exactly. And the kits that you can buy, we use a brand called Kinetic, and the plates. So on an asphalt roof, a plate gets 2 3-inch lag bolts directly into a truss. And the back of that plate, before it's anchored down, is tarred around each bolt, and then it gets a flashing plate over top of that. That's also tarred. So, and it flashes up underneath the shingles above. So it's
Okay.
really, really solid. Um, the On the metal roof, the plates, instead of tar, we will use clear flex on the back, but it also has they come with blue skin on the back, so
Cool.
any penetration is locked in pretty tight. So
Yeah.
we like to be really, really sure. But in terms of leaks, like, yeah, it's it's pretty solid stuff the way the installations are mounted. And again, that'll vary from installer to installer, but for the
Mhm.
most part, like,
So what'll happen like in the future when the roof needs to be replaced? Like we would obviously have to contact you
yeah,
to come and kind of work around the
yeah.
solar.
And some roofing companies will have experience working around solar too.
Okay.
A roofing company is probably not going to be as careful
Mm-hmm.
as a solar installer will be to come strip it off before the roof. So definitely a factor when you're looking into doing a new roof, and why it's important to weigh the decision of whether to do the roof first and then do solar later.
Right.
It all kind of depends.
Mhm.
Yeah. And again too, so back in the late 80s, early 90s, you see a lot of solar hot water systems with the preheat loop, or the preheat glycol loop, and that'll send it down to the tanks, which is a great solution, and I definitely don't want to knock it, but where solar PV has gotten to, like, my issue with that is it you can't objectively measure it. With solar now, you can objectively measure and put a hard number against some tangible results about what the homeowner is saving. So here's an example of the Solar Edge app. So I'll work from left to right. Is every homeowner, Solar Edge, anyone installing Solar Edge gear gets access to this monitoring platform, and every manufacturer has something like it to monitor now. So it pairs with the Wi-Fi of the home, either hardwire, or we'll put in a Wi-Fi booster if the signal is not strong enough to do the remote connection. But this home is out in McGrath's Cove, so East Dover. It was only installed back in May, so it's had 2 months of production, and it's a big system, 13 kilowatts. They've already produced 2 megawatt hours, so 2,000 kilowatt hours of production so far. Just crazy. Like they'll produce almost 100 kilowatt hours a day on a nice day.
So are they sort of jump in? So with a system like that that's producing like that, they're probably feeding the grid, are they?
Yes.
They're at zero. They're at zero. They're getting a power check instead of a power bill.
So here's I guess a bit I'll explain on is the whole bidirectional metering arrangement. So with the system and part of the Nova Scotia Power process, you'll get a net metering agreement. So once the system's completed, Nova Scotia Power, a meter person will show up and install a bidirectional meter. So that measures the flow of power coming in and the flow of power going out. And homeowners are given credit at the retail rate. And it's, with solar, you're kind of looking at it over an annual period, because obviously your production is going to be better. March, we see really great production. We see a bit of a dip in April, typically. And then May, we start to see it ramp up into the full summer production, and it'll go strong right until like mid-October. And part of the reason for that is solar operates best at 25 degrees Celsius. So if you think up on a roof, a nice sunny day in March, that roof temperature is going to get pretty close to 25 degrees. So that system operates really, really efficiently. In the summer, you'll get a bit of loss, but you get longer daylight hours. So it makes up for any loss due to a lack of efficiency from the excess heat. And we get questions about solar shingles. And that's the big thing with solar shingles is they don't have a good way to deal with all that excess heat. So they're really expensive and they're really inefficient right now because of that excess heat. They don't or can't operate as efficiently as they could compared to this where how solar is installed right now. I think solar shingles will get there, but it's just not quite there yet.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
But yeah, so back to your question, Alex, is these guys will generate more than they need through the summer, like way more. So this project was designed to meet 100% of their power requirements. So through the summer, they'll build up and accumulate credit. So on the bill, when they get a bill, okay, they'll see a negative balance, and they'll keep drawing against that or adding to that negative balance or that credit. And then in the fall, in the winter, during the negative months, or not the negative months, but the lower production months, and they'll likely be relying on the grid a little more, then they'll draw against the credits that they've accumulated. Oh, okay. So Nova Scotia Power does true up their billing cycles annually. And so if at the end of the year they have a bit of a credit, yeah, they'll get a bit of a check, but no one's getting rich. So like,
no, it's not a moneymaker.
No, it's not your retirement plan. Nova Scotia Power's not in the business to be cutting checks to people. So, someone may, you may get like 20 or 30 bucks. Maybe you'll get $100 on a year, yeah, like maybe.
But it's what you're saving a month is where you're making money.
Exactly. So at 13 kilowatts, I think the system was suspected to generate around like 15,000 kilowatt hours a year, just roughly. And so that's like $3,000, I think, roughly, mm-hmm, a year in power. So, saving $3,000 a year in powers, that's helpful.
Absolutely.
So, and with this, they'll see a payback of between 10 and 11 years. So, and that's traditionally what we see with the payback periods now. Is before they used to be like 20 years and not make a lot of sense. So now with the efficiency of the systems and the cost coming down so significantly, the payback periods are typically between 9 and 13 years, depending on the shading, orientation of the home. It's definitely not right for every home. No. It all depends on shading and orientation and available roof area. Mm-hmm. Because as well, the cost of installing solar is pretty fixed. So the cost for our team to do a 4 kilowatt system or a 10 kilowatt system is going to be pretty much the same. There will be a few extra hours of labor and your equipment will scale up with the size, but in terms of the process, it's the same no matter how big or small you go. So your cost per watt on a small project is going to be pretty high and pretty significant. So to do a 4 or 5 kilowatt system will cost us like, I don't know, between $18,000 and $22,000. And the cost to do a 10 kilowatt system will be between like 27 and 30, maybe. This is after tax numbers. So, you get almost double the system capacity for an extra $5,000 or $6,000. So it really scales, and that's after tax, pre-rebate ballparks.
Yeah. So so now we're into the Q&A portion.
Yeah. So sorry, it was a bit of a ramble, and
it's all good.
I haven't done any kind of presentation to your guys' specific group before, so I'm sure there's things I missed. Just fire away. Or
I guess, I don't know, Renee can probably speak to some of this too, because she hosts and does some of the trainings in her office. But like, a lot of people I'm finding are really arguing about the value. Like, you have a 2,500 square foot bungalows side by side. One has solar, one doesn't. What's the what can you is there like a value you can reasonably ask for solar? And I know it's subjective and all that, but do you have had any experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, you could look at the comparable cost to installation and system age. So a system's efficiency degrades about half. You lose 0.5% every year is what we account for. So, it's just like any old oil furnace. If you put a brand new furnace in, it's going to be running at, I don't know what they are, like 85% efficiency or 90% efficiency. It's never quite 100. There's always some kind of loss. But, once that oil furnace or whatever gets to be 20, 30 years old, it's not going to be as efficient as it once was. So the same with solar, like parts and things get worn, and the heating and the freezing year after year after year, it loses about 0.5% every year. So you look at 15% loss over 25, 30 years, still not too bad. But you could factor that in. So and also what the equipment is. So if it's the new system that's only a couple years old, you could maybe look for the full or slightly under what it costs to install that. Because also for the homeowner, you'll also know the bill history too. So you should be able to find out how much has this system produced and how much power do we consume, and what's the difference? Like what's that number that it's offsetting? So you could actually say, it's like, okay, well, the homeowners have typically used, the average is around 12,000 kilowatt hours a year. And the system produces 8. Well, that 8,000 kilowatt hours multiplied by the rate, this is what you're saving in utility costs every year, or electric utility costs every year, by having solar versus not. So it's like, there's $1,500 back in your pocket every year.
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept that I never really thought about, was comparing it with an oil furnace or something like that. Because you're totally right. It's doing the same function in the house, but for the same lifespan. I think, we just don't have that much knowledge, and it's just not common knowledge for us, whereas an oil furnace is, that now we can kind of say to our clients, well, it's not going to last forever, but look at it as like a furnace. You maintain it, whatever. And here's your savings that you actually get in your pocket from having. So it actually boosts the value.
Yeah. I guess another big part would be, if it's a newer system, is like, does it come with the bill? Like, has the seller paid off their bill to Solar Ascent? Because I guess, if it comes with with a $1,500 savings, but does it come also with a $200 a month bill for the system?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. So there's a company called, and I won't speak ill of my competition, but there's a company called Polaron that's offering 0% financing. And I haven't I've seen their proposals, but I haven't seen the actual like contract to see how it works. But a lot of these homeowners are getting locked into a 12-year payback period at 0% on a lease to own model. So if they go to sell that home, I'm not sure what happens. That the other case where you run into it is the Solar City programs. So that's a program administered by Halifax, like HRM, and they finance systems over 10 years at 4.75%. And that's a property assessed loan. So it shows up as a lien on the home, and it is transferable to the new homeowner. So it is a good question to know if someone who has solar now is a Solar City, because it may be something, because if you're going to negotiate a deal to purchase a home, and conversely, if you're negotiating a deal to sell the home and there's Solar City involved, then you would want the new homeowner, if you're selling, to pony up to cover the cost to pay out the balance of the loan.
Mm-hmm.
Do you catch my drift?
Yeah.
Or if you're representing someone and going to purchase a home, you could negotiate it the other way. Whereas, you still owe, 10 grand on the solar system. I want you to take that off the host because I don't like.
Yeah.
But again, then you could argue it other ways. That just comes into the negotiation.
Yeah. And that's kind of been the general consensus in like all of our trainings is like, it's so user subjective. Like it's like a pool. Like some people will pay you 10 grand more for that house because it has a pool, and some people won't even look at that house because it has a pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of maintenance, it's pretty maintenance free. The only pain in the butt is what happens when my roof needs to be redone. And there's no easy answer for that.
It's pretty much just is what it is. It's an extra bill. You got to pay you guys to come in, take the panels down for 2 days while the roofers do their thing, and then have you guys come back and reinstall.
Yeah. But then once that's done, so, okay, maybe that adds an extra $1,500, $1,500 to $2,500. We haven't.
Depending on the size of the system.
Yeah. It's all dependent.
Is it 4 panels down the corner? Or is it the whole friggin' roof?
Yeah, exactly. But for us at that point, it's really minimal. It's mostly a labor cost. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of material that's added into that bill either. So because they've got all the equipment, unless they want to get into changing something out or whatever. But
yeah, for sure.
Totally like a pool. Like, you'll have some people that it's a big feature for them and they love the idea of it. But again, too, even financial institutions, so Credit Union Atlantic, and sorry, I guess just to close the loop. So we as a company, aside from Solar City, like we're paid up. So we don't offer any in-house financing or anything like that where we're these like weird lease to own models. Like when we do a project, we're just getting paid for it and then we're not out of the picture, but
financially out of the picture.
Yes. Another good thing, warranties. So all the equipment we use, so I can only speak to my experience, is all the equipment's transferable and it's all 25-year warranties. So as long as someone doesn't try to take the system off and move it to their cottage, or whatever, I've had strange questions. As long as that stays in place for its lifetime, that warranty transfers to the new homeowners.
Okay, good. That was my next question.
Yeah, and it's all 25 years. So people can have the peace of mind. You may have to pay labor to have something changed out, but you won't be like new equipment costs unless you want to upgrade or, Yeah.
So I guess, so dead panel, like you get a dead panel, just call you guys and warranty covers it, and you guys can plug in the new panel.
for us, we haven't had any panels go back for warranty. We've had probably over 2,000 panels out there. We have had 3 bad optimizers out of 2,000. So every panel is paired with an optimizer, which are then all strung together and send down to the inverter. But we get a ping from the inverter. So homeowners will get an email notification, and we'll get a notification that, hey, and because you can monitor the system down to the individual panel level. So if you see here on the right,
Yeah.
I can see what each specific panel is putting out at any point in time as well. So,
And that tells you,
yeah,
like so the panels are on the roof of my house. I don't know, I'm at the lake for the weekend and a panel dies. We both get an email.
yeah,
That something's not right. That's kind of cool.
yeah. And that'll be registering. So if it's a bright sunny day and we see one panel's down to 0, it's probably an optimizer issue, but we just swap it out and warranty it, carry on. Other big thing is grid tied systems. When the power goes out, the system goes into a rapid shutdown because a few reasons. So you can't send power back out to a linesman. They'll get a pretty nasty zap. And as well, it's kind of like dirty power. So it's really like if you have a intermittently cloudy day, that system's gonna, every time the sun hits it, it's gonna ramp up, catch power, and then it might ramp down. And then, it's not always just this clean linear line, bell curve of production through the day. On a bright, clear day, it will be, but if you have a bit of cloud, you could see like dips as it produces throughout the day. And if you're trying, you can't have that, like if your lights will be like flickering and.
Yeah. We have a solar system down at the lake, and you'll see that like throughout the day. If it's just going, like you'll see the lights sort of have a little dim for a minute, then they'll come back.
Yeah.
Just because like a cloud went over and the panels sort of had they went from 90% to 70 or whatever.
Yeah.
So like an average home system, what size is your battery bank? Is it taking up a room or is it taking up just a little area?
Nobody really does a ton of batteries right now. So to add batteries to a home system would pretty much, it wouldn't double the cost, but you're going to add you're going to add 50 to 70% to the project cost.
Okay. So you're not really burning your stored, like you have a bright 30-degree sunny day.
Yeah.
That night when you turn on the TV, it's not burning solar energy. It's pulling off the grid.
Exactly.
But it's free because your solar system added to your credit throughout the day.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So we have one battery project that we're doing, the LG battery wall.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of looks like the Tesla whole home battery.
So
it mounts on the wall, and it's just expensive.
We looked into the Lion ones, like for the camp. They're like $2,400 a pop.
Yeah, and you'd need
8 of them
for a camp. Yeah, and that's just for a camp, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking at $10,000 to $15,000 worth of batteries for your home. And then with batteries, there's a little more like maintenance and upkeep and things like that, things to monitor and check. But I think it'll get there. But if you're talking to someone who, like most people have generators now, and if not, you could get a Generlink and a generator, like go get a Costco generator and a Generlink installed for like $3,000. So when you're weighing out the cost, Cool. So we're getting close to the hour.
Yeah.
Any kind of final big questions or?
I have
Think.
2 questions maybe.
Yeah.
What would be, so you do like free quotes? Like what is like the start of the process if someone,
Yes. So for us, and again, this is just our process, is yeah, free quotes. So there's no cost to get us into the state of a final proposal and a contract signed, I guess. And then where it's such a long wait for our clients, because it's 4 to 8 weeks before you even know if your project is approved by Nova Scotia Power. We haven't had any not be approved, but you need that sign off before you can go get your permits and things like that. So that's almost 2 months. And then it's about a month wait after that, just based on our project flow. And we communicate the dates and things like that. But we don't actually ask for a deposit if a homeowner is paying cash, for example. We won't ask for a deposit until 2 or 3 weeks before like our boots actually land on the ground. We don't like to hold on to people's money or anything like that. That's where some negative histories come around. Like people, oh, I'm getting my solar, I paid them for it, but then I haven't been there for a year. And there's still even contractors out there that, like, I've been finding we clean up a lot of projects from people just getting burned and waiting too long or anything like that. Like, we're not going to be the cheapest option and we're not going to be the fastest, but the quality of our installs and things like that. Sorry, that's a little plug for ourselves, but
We'll give you a free one.
So we don't ask for that deposit until 2 to 3 weeks. We'll ask for a 50% deposit, but we try to communicate that early and often, and people sign off on it and things like that. And then we leave a 25% holdback too on our projects until they have their bidirectional meter systems totally commissioned. So they don't even have to pay 100% until they're starting to generate that power. Yeah, and then we don't offer financing. Some of the bigger companies that they like the Ontario solar companies, they have those like their lease to own models out there. And then there's Solar City is a great option. Credit Union Atlantic has a really great 10-year green energy financing. The credit union option, they'll also do like spray foam projects or kind of any energy efficient upgrade. They have a 10-year 4.5% loan. It's not the best interest rate, but it can be a good option for people.
Mm-hmm.
The Solar City one as well.
Cool. What's the average cost of like your typical kind of 2,500 square foot home? Not these big massive builds, but more of your residential average.
Give you a ballpark range like 24 to 30,000 after tax. After tax and before the rebate. So that's installed.
Nice. And the rebate's $6,000 or so right now?
Yeah, that's the max. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was bigger, wasn't it? It was 10 a while ago.
Yeah. 10. It was 40% of your project cost up to a maximum of 10,000. It's $1 a watt.
Nice.
Yeah, that was crazy. Then they dropped it after a few months. Because in some cases that covers half your project.
Mm-hmm. So
we were seeing paybacks of like 7 years, 8 years. It's really strong. But yeah, the rebate's slated to be, I think they dropped it last fall, and that's supposed to hold until the end of the Solar Homes program. And that program is only around until the end of 2021. So I'm not sure what the landscape will look like. Before COVID, we were hearing rumors of a federal program, like a 0%, $40,000 loan for homeowners. We were hearing rumors of that coming, but yeah, with COVID, not sure. as well as we're hearing the Solar City program might drop to 0% financing. I know they're pushing for it, but I don't know if that'll happen. Credit Union Atlantic has some good options. There's good stuff out there.
Yeah.
And and then for timing and things like that too, like we make exceptions for like new construction or a mortgage plus improvements, because there are time constraints with those.
Mm-hmm.
Like things need to be done by a certain point in time. So, you know, there's always exceptions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because if you're doing a purchase plus improvement, you can't really tell them, yeah, we'll get to you in next May.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
It's a bit of variation between people.
Cool. Cool, man. Well, appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. And I mean, even if you guys have questions like about anything, you know, feel free to email me. Alex, I think you can, if anyone wants it, they could probably get my contact information from you.
Yep.
Yeah, even if you just have questions that come up, like, you know, I'm not like, if I get to do a couple proposals out of it, great. If I don't, you know, I'm just happy to chat about it and help answer questions.
I like Renee's point about like an inspection, because that's something like a home inspector isn't going to touch that.
Yeah.
You'd be able to maybe look in through the roof and see if there's any moisture coming through the leg bolts, if you can see them.
Yeah,
but
exactly. And you may be able to find out, because we hear some contractors will only go into the sheathing.
Yeah.
Which is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sketchy.
Yeah. So there's always things out there. I can only really speak to, you know, our process and what we do, but yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, anytime you get questions or anything like that.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
everybody.
all.
Have a good day.
Take care. See you.
Bye.
Thank you.